Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome to the stream. Adjust my mic a little bit. Before I get rambling on, do I sound okay? And there is nothing playing in the background like my last live. Just wait for an answer here. Because I caught that. I guess I had a video, the last live I did on, what was it, Friday? I guess I had like a video playing in the background, and which is weird because I should be able to hear it, but for some reason I couldn't, so I had no idea that there was something going on. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday and feeling good. I unfortunately kind of got sick over the weekend. I don't think little low volume. Oh, yep, I'll turn it up. That should be better. So yeah, I missed Monday. Sorry guys. I don't think it's COVID though. Just that time of year, you know. So, all right, yeah, I turned it up, so let me know. Get a thumbs up going. And yeah, it's been a long time since we've covered the Dylan Rounds case. Chris, I don't know how your sound is, but your closed caption is beautiful. Thanks, Chris. I always try to make sure I get that for you, for anybody that's hard of hearing. So glad to hear that's working good. All right. Before we get started, we always like to feature the missing. So let me pull this up. Okay. So today's missing, we've got Brayley. I hope I pronounced that right. Brayley Gibbs. Not a lot of information that I could find, but there's a bolo on the lookout for her because she's just 16 years old. She went missing on October 17th, so about 3 weeks ago, approximately. And this is in the St. Joseph, Missouri area. Just 16 years old, went missing about 3 weeks ago in St. Joseph, Missouri. And there's the picture. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information I could find. So that is the missing. All right, so on to Dylan Rounds. I think most of you probably know I've covered this case and been out there searching for him multiple times. I've been out there, I don't know, 7 or 8 times looking for him ever since the first week he went missing. So for anyone that's new, I'll kind of do just a short recap and then we'll get into... there are a few updates, nothing huge, but I do have something kind of interesting to show you guys and kind of my theories. And I think we have, let's see in here, I think I just saw her name mentioned. There's Christina, hope you're doing well. Her sister Carolyn, who is a geophysicist, she was telling me of a process that, a way that they could use to possibly find Dylan Rounds. I don't know if it's too late, but we'll kind of get into that when we get to that point. But we'll just do a little recap here. And then we definitely got a lot of footage to show you guys because we went out there so many times. And we've got a lot of locals in here as well, like True Crime Utah. Good to see you. Jill Moser, I saw you in here earlier. So basic timeline, Dylan Rounds, last year, he went missing over Memorial Weekend, and he was last physically seen, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday. Last seen, I think, physically Wednesday, and then there was like a charge on his card at the saddle store on Thursday. But the last person to talk to him was on the Saturday, May 28th. Well over a year ago, and he spoke to his grandmother at just before 7 a.m. and he told her that he was going to park the grain truck because it was going to rain and he didn't want the feed to get wet. And so there's a shed, and we'll look at that. And so he wanted to park it. Yeah, so he spoke to his grandmother for just a quick second. It was a very short phone call. And it seems like he was pretty much on his way there. So if we just kind of look at a map here. Let me pull this one up. This one's... So he had a camper and his farm were over here, and this is in Lucin, Utah. And you drive down this dirt road here, and there's a gate about right here. And just before you hit that gate, it seems sometime between after he left the farm in his camper, he took his truck, and on his way, he had called his grandmother. And then we soon would learn later on through interviews that he actually did attempt to call James Brenner, who is basically the main suspect in this case. James Brenner was a guy that was, let me pull this down, close that. Let's pull up James Brenner here. Oh, might have pulled. There we go. So there's James Brenner. He was technically squatting on the property. There was a trailer that he had out there that was kind of loaned to him by the family. And so he was staying there. He's basically kind of like, supposedly kind of like a caretaker out there, even though this wasn't officially his trailer or his property that he was staying on, but he was kind of supposed to, kind of help Dylan and kind of look over the property. But technically he was squatting. Anyway, so Dylan would have ran into, let me pull up the map here. After getting off the phone with his grandmother and also attempting to call James Brenner, and it's assumed that maybe he was calling Brenner because Brenner, since even though this wasn't his property, he had put a lock on the fence. There's a little gated fence, and it looks just like this one right here. I don't know why. When I pull something up, it's the other one that pulls up. So here's the fence. And then you would drive for like another, even though it doesn't look far, the dirt road's kind of rough. So it takes about, I don't know, about 5-10 minutes, depending on how fast you're going to from here to get to the shed there. And that's where his trailer was at. And anyway, I guess Brenner had been putting up this lock because someone had left the gate open, and he had a horse on that property, and it got out, and so he was unhappy. And I feel like this guy was trying to take over, even though it wasn't his property. He was kind of one of those people that just kind of decides that they, even though it's not their property, they feel like what's given to them is theirs, and now, I don't know. I've just met people like that, or just, I don't know. Anyway, so Dylan would have driven down there to the grain shed and was going to park the grain truck. And since then, and that was on the 28th, why is it do this? And sorry, I'm not feeling well. I'm sorry, guys. It's kind of hit me. But so after not hearing from Dylan, after his grandmother, Sunday the family would try and they would get a hold of Jim and Dawn. Dawn is a friend of Jim's who lives out in Lucin as well. He lives kind of west of that property I showed you guys. And they both said that they had not seen Dylan since, I think, Saturday or whatever. So the parents obviously got worried. They came out the next Monday on the 30th. And when they arrived, things were very out of place. When they got there, they would find, obviously they wouldn't find Dylan. And so they started looking around, worried that Dylan was possibly, hurt or something. And when they got there, they had noticed that the truck was parked back at the farm. But when they went to the grain shed, and let me pull it up here. It's so weird that it keeps pulling up like that. And so when they got there, they found Dylan's boots were tossed behind this little dirt mound, which is, so we have the grain shed down here, and we have Brenner's trailer, which is just under this picture of his boots. And then there's this little dirt mound that's like a football field out. And so these boots were tossed, and they were just kind of like hand tossed. I think both standing up next to each other. And they were Dylan's boots. And Dylan only wore one pair of boots. He would wear them until he would they would wear out, and then he would get another pair of the same exact brand. So anyway, so they found the boots. I don't know if they noticed it right away, but they would eventually notice that there was blood, little blood spots, just very small drips on one of the pairs of boots. And so that clearly raised alarm, and they thought maybe Dylan was out, hurt, wandering the desert. And so, of course, they would file a missing persons report, but that would cause some issues because they wouldn't, because they're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so they started searching themselves. Eventually, search and rescue would come out, but it wasn't a big team like they would probably need for this vast area. And they would search for Dylan, but they would not find anything. And another problem is when they came in contact with Brenner wouldn't tell him anything. Just that he'd seen him, last saw him, I think, over, like Friday or Saturday, but hadn't seen him since, and was pretty quiet. And then other than that, he was pretty much cleaning out the grain shed, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then, so when they go to the farm, let me jump forward here. They would find Dylan's truck. Dylan's truck was locked. The key fob at that time when they got there was missing, which Dylan would keep on himself. And so they thought that was weird. And usually I think Dylan never locked his truck. So they thought it was odd that it was locked. They would end up busting the window to get it in, to get into the truck. And they noticed some very unusual things. The seat was pulled all the way forward, and Dylan usually would have it at a certain spot, and they could tell that, this was clearly possibly staged. Also, the truck was put in 4-low, which the 4-low would not work because whoever put the transmission in the truck didn't do it properly, and so the I guess the 4-wheel drive, the traction, it just wouldn't work. Even though you'd put it in 4L, it would still drive. It just wouldn't be working like it should be with the 4-wheel drive. And also, they noticed that the truck seemed pretty clean, other than some spots under the wheel well, which you can see here. And keep in mind, over the weekend, it had rained multiple times. And so if it was driven, say that Saturday that he was pretty much last heard from his grandma, that when it rained that Saturday and I think Sunday evening, it would make sense if this truck was driven, since he went missing, you would get all this. And so they thought it was really odd. Plus, I think Dylan didn't really clean his truck a lot, so they really thought that was out of place. And so as you can see, the truck is pretty clean. They did have a pressure washer there because they did have access to a water hole there. And so there is a pressure washer that is right at his farm there. But as you can see, and this damage, I know a lot of people point this out, and this damage to the front of the truck has been there. That was there prior, so that has nothing to do with this case. And so anyway, that's just kind of a look at the truck there. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty clean. You can actually see the hose that's used for the water line. And the only thing that they could tell that this truck was clearly obviously clean, and that they could tell that it had been driven in the mud because the wheel wells, let's see, do I have another one? No, I'll have to go back. I have more pictures. I have so many files from Dylan Rounds, and I didn't know which one to snag up first. But anyway, as you can see, it's just caked on. It's like wet cement when it gets that wet. This kind of dirt is literally like wet cement. So clearly they missed some of these spots, but there's some pictures I have in other folders where you can clearly tell that it was cleaned off and that there was dirt, and it seems like they did try to get some of the wheel well, because you'll see on the ground, you can actually see like the clumps of because it's kind of like, where you can see it's kind of like rocky, like just wet cement. And you could see it around the truck on the ground. This isn't the best picture, but there are other pictures where you look on the ground, you can tell that this wet cement type dirt had been cleaned off the truck. So anyway, that raised some major red flags. And let me get my timeline here, and I'll get to chat here in just a second. There's so much. Let's see. Why? That's so weird. Every time I pull up a picture, it pulls up the one I had before. That is weird. Anyway. So, let's see. I'm trying to get this in order. So they would search for Dylan rounds on, let's see, let me pull up the map here. So they continue searching for Dylan throughout the week here. And on June 1st, because this got switched around, that's why I got to think about this. Because he had his camper at the farm. They would first find, they would search for the camper, didn't find anything of note. And then on June 1st, so what was it? They got there on the 30th. So 2 days after they got there, and I guess while they were out looking, keep in mind Brenner is just there. He did have a truck, but it would overheat, so he wasn't really using his truck because obviously he couldn't go very far, especially during this time of the year where it's super hot. And apparently the problem with the truck is it would overheat, so he couldn't really ever use his truck. He'd always have to get a ride from somebody. And anyway, so apparently while they're out searching this vast area, when they come back, they notice that there's this 40 cal pistol that belonged to Dylan, was sitting in his trailer now. And they had searched, obviously, the trailer before and thought it was odd that, how could we have missed this? And so that first showed up was the gun. And then the next day, and so the gun, we don't know if any ammo was missing because that was something we've obviously had, Candace on many times, and she's came on to clear up because there's a lot of details, and especially this case has been, twisted around a lot. But anyway, so the pistol was found with the clip, but we don't know if there was any bullets missing. It would be interesting to know because right now, as far as we know, we don't know what gun was exactly used. Was it Dylan's own gun that was used on him, or was it because Brenner had owned some guns that he hid over at the neighbors? We'll kind of get into that in a second. I'm going to take a sip here. Yeah, I still just have just a slight fever that kind of hit me yesterday, but so I do apologize. I do feel better than I did over the weekend. Christina, Chris, so help me. I will come out there and force you to take a break, take a night off, and feel better. I'll be good. It just takes a minute to get into the grind again. Sensei, get well soon, Chris. The power of the mob crew. Thank you. I mean, everybody that I know has been sick, and I feel so bad. I don't think it's COVID related. I think it's just a nasty bug. And Auntie Mimi, hey Chris, I'm late. Sorry. Do we have an update for the trial? Right now, I don't think so. The best person to ask would be True Crime Utah, because she's up to date on that stuff. I know that that was something I was going to save after I do the recap the timeline, but um, yeah, we'll talk about that when we cross that bridge. But yeah, there's some updates to the trial, but it has been postponed. Christina, thank you so much for gifting a Mob Crew membership. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Looks like Donnie was gifted to the membership. And Richardson family, thank you so much. Thank you for your continued coverage on this, Chris. Thank you so much for your support. Helps me out so much. Really appreciate it. Um, so yeah, here's kind of the answer. The defense asked for a delay on setting a date for a preliminary hearing so they could go over the digital discovery. So no trial date until the preliminary happens. Yeah, and that might. I know I haven't talked to the mother, Candace, for a long time, and I know she was upset at some stuff that happened with the court. But now knowing some of the things that we know, which we'll talk about here in a bit, revolving the case stuff, it may be a good thing. And like I said, we'll talk about that here in a minute. So anyway, so one day they find the gun, in which they thought was weird. And then the next day, because remember they had to break into the truck because the key fob was missing. Well, when they go to search, apparently the pond, I believe, I don't know if they actually officially searched the pond that day, but they were near the pond, if I recall the story right, because Candace was out there with, I think, I don't know if it was FBI or one of the detectives, but so on June 2nd, they're out at the Lucin Pond area. And so once again, you've got Brenner who's, confined to his area at the grain shed, but obviously can walk, which wouldn't take very long, to walk over to the farm where, Dylan's camper's at. And this key fob returned the next day on the day that they were out looking at this Lucin pond. And so, yeah, they come back, and here's this Dylan Round's key fob returned, and they knew that because obviously I'm sure that's what they were looking for when they first showed up, especially to try to get into the truck. So I thought that was really odd. Matter of fact, that same day, which is very important, is Brenner decided that he was going to start doing some late spring cleaning and decided to start cleaning out the grain shed. And they thought that was really odd. And then, of course, one of the things that really raised some red flags is when, obviously, they had, what was it? Box Elder County was involved, Elko County was involved, and eventually the FBI would be involved. But Box Elder, when they were searching around the grain shed area during those first few days, Brenner got upset because they were, on his property. This is what I was trying to get to earlier, which isn't really his property. But, there's those kind of people that, kind of take advantage and assume things that are loaned to them, now it's their property. And that's what I was trying to get to. But anyway, so moving on. So all these items started showing up, but the biggest one, which is going to be huge, is they ended up finding, so they had a ping. So even though Dylan Rounds went missing, or he had his last phone call at 7 a.m. on the 28th, his phone would continue working that day until approximately, and I could be wrong, it's either 3:15 or 3:45, somewhere around there, 2 or 3 p.m., somewhere in that area. It's the last official ping. Now, keep in mind, this area is kind of, there's only like one tower and I think he had Verizon. So you would get lucky and get maybe one or two bars out there, just kind of depending on where you're at. But so with not having a full service, your ping, even though you'll get pings, they're gonna not be completely accurate. You know, they're gonna be within a mile, 5 mile radius, kind of just dependent. But they got one last ping that was actually in this area right here, which is not too far from the water hole. And on June 18th, so a couple weeks after he went missing, they would search that water hole and they would find his, I believe it was an Android phone. I'm not sure what phone, what model it was. But they would find his phone. It was tossed in a little, pull this up here. They would find it right in this little beautiful pond. I mean, it's beautiful. It's got this little neon green hue to it. It's really, really beautiful. There's a little pipe that fresh water pumps into. I'm not sure where exactly it comes from, but it pumps into this pond, and then there's an aquifer I think that gets that this feeds into, and then that's where the water source that he would get from his farm there. But anyway, the irony is this footage that you're looking at would be the first time when we went out to search for him. And we went out there on many, many different days. But our first time, so they ended up having they ended up searching for him. Had like a local search party is what I'm trying to say. I think Saturday and Sunday, which would have been the 4th and 5th, I believe. We couldn't make it out there until Monday, so we got out there the 6th. So let's see. So he'd been the 28th. So he'd been missing for 8 days. And we went out there on June 6th. And what's crazy is that we were literally standing 5-10 feet from where the phone was found. When we went out there, we had met up with locals before we actually started searching, because we wanted to kind of get an idea from the locals, like, what would, did you see anything? What would your gut feeling be? Where would he be? And after talking to him, of course we wanted to know where the Lucin pond was, because we knew that was out there. And I think they were mistaken. They had seen law enforcement around in this area, maybe just searching for Dylan. I think they told us that they believed that the pond had already been searched, because we were going to actually search it ourselves. But it was an iPhone. Okay. Thanks for correcting me. It's been a while, so I have all the details in 20 different folders because I've covered this so many times, and it's been a long time since I've covered this case. But it's something I'm very passionate about, and there's some footage that I have that I think could possibly help in some way. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But anyway, so just kind of think that we were standing there, and what's so crazy is this phone was found actually in this spot, I believe, like in this area where we're standing. But like I said, we were under the impression it had been searched, so we didn't want to go in and search it because we thought they had already done that. But they would recover the phone on June 18th. This phone was huge because that's so weird. Because when they found it, and they almost messed up because when you take a phone out of water, And if it just dries naturally, you could actually ruin the components. And normally what you would want to do is if you were going to take a phone out of the water, especially if you were going to try to extract the memory from it, you would actually want to bag it in water. So even though you're taking the phone out of water, you're actually bagging it in water and keeping it in the same environment it's been in. Because what happens is it'll start to dry and it'll actually ruin some of the more important components in the phone, which could cause it to completely be useless. But for some reason, they got lucky. I don't know the exact date of when they found out this phone would be eventually looked into. And sorry, there's somebody revving their car outside. But eventually they would be able to recover data from this phone. And what they found on the phone was absolutely terrible, but in a way, good news because it had some damning evidence on it. And what the video showed, for those that may not know, is it showed Brenner. And I'm not sure how long the video is. I don't think it's very long. I think it's a time-elapsed video. So that's like just a bunch of photos taken, in concession. Sorry. Got a guy outside my window just kind of revving his car really loud. Anyway, and what it showed was Brenner was... Really, dude? I hope you guys can't hear that. I apologize. It's something that normally doesn't happen. I may have a bike that revs up in a minute, but anyway. Can you guys hear that? Oh, you can't hear it? Oh, that's good. I'm sorry. It's quite annoying. Anyway, every time I start talking, this guy's revving up his car. This guy has a car out there that just, his battery always dies. And I'm assuming that's got to be the car. So they probably got it jumped and he's probably revving it. Or he's probably jumping the other car. Anyway, so on the footage would show Brenner and he's cleaning his gun and he's got blood on him. And I don't know which gun he is cleaning. That hasn't been confirmed on what gun because right now we don't know exactly the murder weapon as far as this case goes. But this was huge because he had blood on him and obviously it was time stamped. And the crazy thing is this video was time stamped at give me 1 second here. Where is it? There it is. So weird. So this video, so as we know, the last time he talked to his grandmother was almost at 7 a.m. So he would have probably gotten to the grain shed at about 7. About 7:05, 7:10. And they said from the last phone call to when the recording started, it was about 30 minutes difference. So sadly, from 7 a.m. to 7:30, just before that, his life was taken. And that's how quick, half an hour. And, part of that time would have been him just driving up to the grain shed. And I'm going to give you guys a better look at what the grain shed looks like. Yeah, that's a water hole. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's it. So this is the grain shed area, and we're just kind of on the north side. We're gonna kind of come back here. I'll get to chat here. I see some things I want to answer. So this footage that we took, because we went out there almost every week. So we went out there on the 6th. I guess you had 7 days. Went on the 13th. And we went out. I mean, we went out basically every week for one day. Yeah, we didn't end up spending the night. Sorry, my chat's getting weird. But yeah, we went out there about 5 times, just about each week. This was taken, I think, 4 weeks since he went missing. But let me get over here. So here's the grain shed. And Brenner's trailer was sitting about right here, I believe. They have taken it since. But yeah, so he would have driven up, and something happened within just the span of 5-10 minutes. And it's believed that as Dylan was going to the fence that we talked about earlier, which I'm trying to have these things pulled up, but it keeps pulling something previous that I had pulled up. But okay, it worked that time. That's good. Even though this shouldn't have had a lock on it, it should have just been like you have this little barbed wire, little like noose type thing that you just kind of sling over or loop, and that holds the fence up. And then you just lift this little barbed wire thing up, and then you just pull the fence, drive through, and then after you drive up a little bit, you would get out and then just close it back up. But Brenner started putting the lock up on this, and they believe it's because the horse, and then a previous incident that I guess Dylan had accidentally hit the fence in some way, and that just goes to his personality. Brenner, where even though this isn't his fence, now he's entitled to it. So it's theorized that maybe Dylan either had broken this fence to get in, because it's clear that he tried to call Brenner. Maybe it's because he probably assumed that this was going to be locked, and so was probably trying to call Brenner to get him to come unlock it. And obviously if Brenner didn't answer the phone, and he's got to go get, it's going to rain any second, and so he's got to go get his grain truck and get it into the grain shed. So I'm sure something to the lines of maybe he broke the lock and maybe part of the fence, that way he could get through. And this is theory, but the parents do agree that they believe this is what happened. And so then obviously Dylan would have arrived. Clearly Brenner would have heard him pulling up. Then probably got out. Keep in mind, Dylan is 19. Brenner, what's his age? I'm sorry, I can't think of his age at the time right now. I want to say 50 something. But Brenner would have probably approached him. There would have been probably an altercation, and it could have been about the fence and maybe some other things. But we kind of assumed that, Dylan was, the one running things, and, this older gentleman happened to take orders from a younger kid. And so they believed that, Brenner was probably just, not having it because, he's much older than Dylan, but less wiser. And Dylan was completely ahead of his ages. He was born to be a farmer, and that was his dream. And this project, being out here, was his dream. And this monster took it from him over something stupid like a fence. But anyway, whatever happened would have happened within 5-10 minutes tops. And then what happened is, I guess, after he took Dylan's life, he went to his camper from the grain shed, and I guess pulled the mom believes that he may have pulled Dylan's phone out, and doing so activated the camera or the time-elapse camera and not known it. And so he's got this camera filming, and it shows him obviously bloody, and he's cleaning a gun. So, and this will be, clearly the smoking gun when it comes to evidence for convicting him. But, so after they found the phone, you jump back here. And then I'm going to get to comments here. I'm sorry. Let me just get to the phone to finish that. Here, where is it? Why does it pull up like that? So weird. So after they found the phone in the pond, which is on June 18th, not too long after that, they would arrest James Brenner once, and I think it was the week right after that. So it would have been just that next week. And or it might have even been that week. It was either that week or the week after the final week of June. And they would arrest him, but he would be let out that same day. But then he would be arrested at the end of June or at the 1st of July because he had an outstanding warrant. He should have been arrested on site the second they arrived there on the 30th, I believe. Because if they would have done a proper background check, they would have seen that he had an outstanding warrant for a previous altercation where he nearly took another man's life for, I think, beating him with a chair or something like that. So he should have been arrested. But instead, he was not arrested, and he was allowed to get rid of evidence and return things. But he would then eventually get arrested twice, once getting let out, and then the second time was because they had found guns that he had stored at a neighbor's property named Don H. And he was not supposed to be, because of priors, he was not supposed to be holding on to any kind of firearms. And so he would have additional charges. And then eventually, months go down the road, and they would finally press charges against Brenner, and then he would eventually be named an official suspect. And then they would eventually learn about the details about the phone. So let me take a sip here, and then we'll kind of get, we're going to talk about where he could be. Obviously, I've been out there many times. I know where all the places are at, although I have to be discreet on some of the things, and I'll explain why here in a minute. And then what are some things that they could do? And one of them is thanks to Carolyn from Unearthed Secrets, who is in here. She shared an idea. It's something that we actually wanted to do this year. Just unfortunately, things just didn't line up. Candace and them, I think they were, at least this is regarding, was it last year? No, it was earlier this year. When we were trying to make our plans for the summer, she wanted to, because I think they took the reward off that way because they were going to try to incentivize James Brenner to, they would show up and see if they could talk to him and offer him some kind of deal and say, hey, we'll, help you with your commissary or whatever, as long as you, just tell us where, Dylan's at. And so another thing that they noticed, and this is in regards to where could have Dylan been dumped. And they noticed that there was, so obviously Dylan's phone, um, after, clearly we know that his life was taken by 7:30 a.m., yet his phone continued to ping multiple times that day in various areas. Um, they would actually ping a couple times at the grain shed. They would also ping at the farm. So it's assumed that he probably took Dylan's truck back here and then came back and then um, either dumped the boots off before or later on. And then he would dump the phone in the Lucin pond. And to me, that shows that there's kind of a direction uh, that could lead us into the area that Dylan could be, in the area where he could be found, possibly. Let me get to chat here for a minute. I've been rambling on. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, yes, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did clear that up. Yes. Yeah, the fence that Dylan hit was the gate that was in the grain shed. That's right. Yeah, like I said, it's been a while and there's so many details. And, but I appreciate you guys getting me caught up on that. Hey, Tom, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Tom says, I hope the phone has evidence to bring justice. It does. It's the smoking gun. I hope everyone is having a great day. Thanks for all your hard work, Chris and mods. Thank you so much, Tom. Without your support, man, I wouldn't have been able to go out and do these things along with all you guys. So thank you guys so much. It's definitely a case that I would love to help bring closure to because I've invested so much time, resources, lost a car in the process, even though it was a lemon, so it's not a biggie. It was going to go out anyway. Did you see Heavy D? You know what? The time we were going to go out, because the last time I was out there was with EquiSearch, and Heavy D was planned to be out there with us, but I can't remember why they didn't show up. I'm sure they had a reason. There was, that they just, it might have been that they wanted them to come and then decided no, maybe, because I think they may have needed their helicopter, but I don't know the exact details on that. Okay, so let's look at the map here, and let me just kind of show you guys. You'll see a slight pattern here. Come on in. So here is Lucin when you're pulling it up on the Google Earth here. As you can see, it is quite vast. And I think this location is where the Lucin Pond is. So yeah, here's the Lucin Pond. So if we kind of back out a little bit, and we do this, let's just do this real quick here. Boop, boop, boop. I can find all these spots, even though I had all these spots labeled. To do them again. So boots were found there. Then we do this. Oop. Go cell phone. Oops. Found. So when just looking at the basic evidence of Dylan's belongings found, the only thing that hasn't been found is the clothing he was wearing. Excuse me. And the clothes that he was, the clothing he was wearing and his wallet, I believe. His wallet hasn't been found. But they found his boots, which was, so this is north, east, south, west. So one of our first clues, and the boots, which I
can't remember if I mentioned, the boots when they found them had the blood on them. They would eventually get sent back for testing, even though they sat in some officer's vehicle for I don't know how many days. Candace, um, I mean, Box Elder really dropped the ball when it comes to this investigation. It's been something that's been talked about many times. Weber has stepped in, but technically this is Box Elder County, and it's not all bad people. And Candace always likes to emphasize, it's not everybody at Box Elder because she did meet some nice people. It's just there are some that she felt she could have gotten much better help, and they could have figured out where Dylan was at much sooner. Anyway, along with the blood on the boots, Brenner's DNA was found on him as well, and I think Brenner knew that, so or caught wind of it, and so when they asked him, he admitted to actually handling the boots and tossing them. I think his words were, well, they were sitting near the grain shed and I was cleaning them out, so I decided to throw them. And this little pile here used to be kind of like a burn pile. And yes, this question still comes up to this day. And people wonder, has this dirt mound, which used to be kind of a burn pile, has it been searched? And yes, it has. So, but yeah, it would have Brenner's DNA on him. So clearly he had handled him. But we see kind of a pattern. We have his boots found just kind of west of Dylan's last known whereabouts. Then if we keep going west, although it's a little bit northwest, but it's still technically west, we find his cell phone. And although I can't show it on this map, there is a wash. So one of the things that Brenner had mentioned to friends is they said, well, a good way to get rid of a body is to dump it in a wash. It'd be an easy way to hide a body. And if you're wondering what a wash is, for those that may not know, a wash is what we're looking at right here, and I've got footage of it. And it's basically something that, when there was heavy rainstorms or whatnot, water would cut through and basically just create this little ditch, little mini canyon. And that's where at one point water would run through. And they could be anywhere from, say 10, 15 feet deep and I don't know, like 40 feet wide to much bigger scales. So they can be very small, or some can look like a mini canyon, basically. So, um, so let me get to the footage, and I'll get to chat, and then we'll start kind of talking about. And then, like I said, I'll mention the whole thing about going west and where I think the most likely spot is that he could be found. So here's some footage of a wash. This wash is just basically north of grain shed. As a matter of fact, it would probably, if you were driving from the grain shed and about the area we're at, where it would only take like 5 minutes, just kind of due north. And so this wash kind of runs east-west, although it does kind of shoot kind of, this wash for the most part runs south east-west, excuse me. So I'm going to play that for a minute and get it caught up in chat. Let's see, make sure my things work good. Well, yeah, it is. It's such a stupid. It's just so stupid. So stupid. It's been now a year and 4 months, something like that. And it seems just like yesterday. Let's see. Hey Tony, good to see you. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, that happens from time to time. Yeah, the music and stuff. Let's see. Hey Allison, good to see you. Uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. So agree, Jesse, Gene. It's just petty, just petty. What a waste. And this kid was, I mean, because I've spent time with the family multiple times, and they are wonderful people. The father, uh, he's just amazing. That I mean, they're both amazing, and they'll do anything, you know, for their son and to bring him home. Um, okay, I think I got caught up. Yes, we're going to talk about your idea. What was my idea you're going to say about this past summer? I'm curious. Yes, we'll talk about it here in just a minute. Well, if you don't remember it, can I take credit and say it was my idea if you don't remember it? Yes, Jesse, we've looked into that very deep. The tracks, as a matter of fact, this video is kind of where we looked at the excavator tracks because there are clear indications that there are these what they call caterpillar tracks that you can see. And so I'm going to talk about the one possible scenario that they could do, and then the second part is I'll show you where the a good probability of where he's at. I can't show you on the map because the parents want that place to be kind of discreet. I can show you footage of it because you know it all looks the same, but I'm not going to show it on the actual map. But I just want to mention one thing here. So this footage here was taken on our first attempt looking for Dylan Rounds. So like I said, this was 6 days since he went missing, and these were the last part of the search group. Because like I said, we're this is Monday. You know, the search group was out there Saturday and Sunday, and unfortunately we couldn't get out there until Monday. Um, but they're friends of Justin Rounds, the father of Dylan. And anyway, what I wanted to do when I came back is I'm like, you know, who knows this footage that we've got I mean, I've got hours and hours of drone footage, especially of early days because we were out there every week. And so there could be tracks and trails could that we could have flown over and help us give an idea of what may have happened. Anyway, so what I did that first after I got back is I uploaded everything I had onto my I think on my Twitter page, and also the actually no, it wasn't Twitter, excuse me. I uploaded it to the main Facebook group for Dylan Rounds. Well, what happened because like I said, because just in case I flew over something, you know, I could have easily missed something because there's just hours of footage to look at. And anyway, this video I uploaded on the Facebook page for Dylan Rounds, and some lady took this particular footage, this particular scene, just to show you how just scummy people are, and she edited it in a way that she said that all of us were there to hide Dylan's body, and that we were also hiding Summer Wells' body. Just let that sink in. Summer whales went missing in, you know, Tennessee, right? Shame on me for. I've got the TBI in my head, but anyway, and so she takes this video, and the video does super well. Like it's not like millions of views, but it gets like 20, 30,000 views. And it's just her accusing us of having skeletons in the vehicle, and she edits it in a way where it cuts as the drone is being set in the car. And even though if you let it play, you can see like inside the truck. Oh yeah, she cut it where as we were setting it in, she cut this part out and then like showed this part and said, "Oh, there was bodies." And anyway, it was a nightmare. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I can't. There's no way I'm doing this again. Like uploading it to Facebook. At least if it's on my YouTube page and someone tries to use my footage without asking me, even though if people use it just to try to help, that's fine. But if someone's going to try to claim that we're hiding bodies, oh, it was just terrible. And anyway, I was so mad because all I want to do is help, and that was just I was gutted because I think YouTube eventually took her video down, but it was up for like a month, and it got so much attraction. It was crazy. Just crazy. Anyway, moving on. So, one of the ways that we could find Dylan Rounds, and then we'll talk about the trail as to where he most likely could be, or a good possibility. And this is through Carolyn on her secrets. So, explain. I may explain some things wrong, so please correct me if I do. But the idea would be, let me take a sip here. Now, I think she shared this with me like 8 months ago, so it's been a while. But she said if he was, let's say he was buried out in the open somewhere in this vast area, what you could do is you could either time it to where there was a rainstorm, and so you go there and you got the rainstorm, and it finishes raining, and then the sun comes out and starts to dry the areas. And before that, you would need multiple drones spread out. And what you would do is you would fly around in grids, keeping an eye on what's drying faster. And remind me, Carolyn, because I can't remember. So if something had been buried, whereas just ground just normally, one of them's going to dry faster than the other. So eventually you would start to see spots that would dry faster, whereas other spots would dry slower because of the ground had been obviously dug up in some way. So I'm sure she's going to probably correct me on which way it is. But what I'm getting to is you would have spots that would show you where there are potential disturbances of the ground, if that makes sense. So you would have a rainstorm come down, wet everything equally, and then just before everything's drying, you would get a bunch of people with drones spread out, do grids, and then keep an eye as the ground's drying, and then those areas that are that had the soil has been disturbed in some way, it's going to dry in a different. Oh, here, and she's got the answer. Yep, fill in the desert would be wet longer. So basically, all the wet spots, so you'd start to have most of the spots dry, but you would have these wet pockets, and that would be your clue to know that there was something there that the ground had been disturbed. And yes, I see people give me credit. Credit goes to Carolyn. That's her baby. when she shared that with us, I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. The only problem with this, the only problem, and it could be a small or a huge problem, is there is a lot of ground that is disturbed because there are, I don't know if it's gophers or jackrabbits. I think jackrabbits are out there. There's definitely a lot of animals that burrow in these areas, and you'll notice that. So that would be the one issue is you would have many spots. I'm assuming they would kind of show up just like if somebody had buried something around in this area as well. But yeah, you would basically, just in a nutshell, this is what you would kind of get. Let's just kind of describe it. And then we'll move to the area where I think good possibility Dylan rounds would be at. And also, we'll get caught up on comments here in just a second. Yeah, for those that don't know, I do suffer sometimes from vertigo. So, yeah, and that kind of hit me early on. So when I was kind of stumbling to think, that hits me, and I start spinning. And when you're looking at a screen, you got this bright light, you got chat going on, and yeah, my mind shuts down because I'm trying not to go into a panic attack. All right. So in theory, so let's just say it got done raining, and everything's starting to dry now. And oops, let's see. Let's do this. And so what you would get as everything's like kind of dry. Well, oh, I didn't copy it first. Oops, hold on. Copy. So what you would get is something like that, if that makes sense, chat. So you would have your drones, flying around, and everything else around it would be dry, but then you would notice this would be dark. Actually, I should probably use like a dark code, but I'll just use blue for the water because it would still be wet here. So the areas that the ground had been disturbed in some way would still be wet, whereas everything's around it that hadn't been disturbed and is natural, you'd be able to deduce that these areas could be potentially a spot that Dylan could have been buried in. And so that was something that was shared with me, and I think it's brilliant. But yes, please give credit to Carolyn from Unearthed Secrets because she's the one that shared us with that, and I think it's amazing. Yes, I do have blue screen glasses, but I can't find them. I'm gonna have to get another pair. But yes, thank you. Yeah, vertigo is rough. I've suffered with it for a long time. It gets the ground can get feel like cement, but it's very easy to dig. Um, but yeah, certain areas of the mud because yeah, it kind of gets that wet cement type kind of mud, but at the same time, it's super easy to dig. That makes sense. So she says wet will be colder on thermal if it's a hot day night. That would determine the size of the anomalous ground better. Interesting. So basically, she's saying that these pockets would show up cooler If I'm getting that right. Yeah, I think I'm understanding that. So kind of the same thing is these areas would show on thermal slightly cooler than the rest of the normal ground that hasn't been touched. So, so in sense, if Dylan had been buried out, say, in an open area like this plan would hold some merit. Now, obviously, you'd have to have great timing with the rain. So you'd have to go there on, a good part of the season when it rains a lot. And then you would need, a lot of people with drones because obviously the drying isn't going to wait for you. So you'd probably need, a bunch of teams with drones. But that is definitely one idea that they could do. I have Meniere's. Also, Chris may have it too by the sound of things. Yeah, I don't know what. I'm just probably a little stuffy, and uh, seems like everybody's been kind of getting sick one way or another. But anyway, but yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. So let's move on. So, as I said earlier, and like I said, I can't show you exactly where it's at, but sorry. And then we'll get to the also the details, the latest details with Brenner, which is not a lot. I think we kind of shared it in chat already, but uh, where are you at? I wanted to pull. Oh no, I wanted to pull up Google Earth. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, back to what I was talking about. So, just some details that we could deduce. So, we have an idea that most likely Brenner used Dylan's truck to dispose of evidence and Dylan's remains. So, where did he go? And clearly, he would eventually take the truck back to the farm over here. But we see a little bit of a pattern. We got west of the grain shed his boots. We go down the road here, which is the back road, which takes you to the Lucin pond. And here, just due west, a little bit north, but due west, we got his cell phone. So, in theory, if you kept going west or northwest or somewhere in the west area, it's possible that that's the direction he was heading to dispose of Dylan's remains. And it just so happens that there's some very big washes that are west of that area. And matter of fact, this conversation that we had with them, which would have been on, was it June? I want to say June 6th or June 7th. June 6th, we were out there. They told us about a spot. As a matter of fact, this camera is pointing west. And they said that there was this big wash and some tracks they had found, and also the trailers. For those that have been following me, remember the trailers we found? Well, where the trailers are at, there's a wash next to it. And this is going to come along with the heavy D sparks and what they had seen. So let me skip this forward a little bit. That's green jet area. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to play this real quick. Let me move this over just a bit.
When we flew with York, we seen there's a big wash, and I mean it's Well, we landed the chopper in it. It's that big. And it was searched right to the Utah border. And then searched state lines again. And then our search party, they did some of it. You didn't realize how big it was, but and I put the video on Facebook yesterday when we're in the chopper, and you can see the single pickup tracks. It's just one pickup that heads out that goes clear to the wash. The tread is similar to Dylan's, but we need law enforcement out there to take, like, is this Dylan's tread? Was this? Because if it was that pickup.
So that was a scene from Heavy D Sparks. Excuse me, when they came out there that first weekend. So we were out there, just a couple of days after the first search, and they're flying through this wash, this wash is west of everything else. So like I said, west could be the answer.
Chopper in it. It's that big. And
she believes that and since then she has gone out and matched, had done some measurements on these tire tracks and noticed that these tire tracks do match up with the tire width of Dylan's truck. So, yes, could have been somebody else's truck, possibly, but she notices that when this person was driving, that looked like they had fishtailed a couple times, and she said, God, that's probably because, and that would make sense also, that if Brenner was the one driving the truck, he would have put it in 4L to try to get his 4-wheel, because because obviously it had been raining, and so he's driving through this while it's wet. That's why these tracks are quite pristine. But obviously it would be wet, and he would fishtail because the 4-wheel drive actually just didn't work, even though he had it in for low. So the second time we went out there, which would have been on the 13th, like I said, we had ran into those guys, and they told us about these trailers, which are right here. And so we went on Google Earth, and we started looking all around, and Nick, my cousin, actually found these trailers. They're really hard to find, but he found them on Google Earth. Anyway, this wash and the tracks that you're looking at are more than likely, and I'm talking like 90% likely, one or if not a couple of these tracks, because obviously there was one way in, one way out. So, who knows if he drove back on his same tracks or if he drove over. It definitely seems like there had been another vehicle out there that may have been the search party, but these tracks are more than likely come from James Brenner driving Dylan Round's truck. And as we talked about earlier, Brenner had mentioned that, it'd be so easy to hide a body because all you would have to do is take a body into the wash. Give me 1 second, guys, here. And then I'll play this footage because it's quite eerie when you really kind of think about it. Kind of gives me goosebumps. So I just got to blow this up here. So, in theory, you could drive into this wash, which this is it's like a little mini Grand Canyon type thing. I'd say these are maybe 80 to 100 foot deep. And let's see, what am I going to do here? So let's say you had pulled over to the side, and you laid, Sadly, Dylan's rounds body down, and all you would have to do is take any object, like I'm sure there was probably a shovel in his background or whatnot, and you would just all you'd have to do is just hit these walls here, and oh, why did I do? That's not what I wanted to do. And literally, the wall would just kind of collapse because it's always collapsing, just through weather and time. And all you'd have to do is just rest a body up near the wall, knock it with a hammer, whatever, shovel, and you could cause some kind of a landslide, whatever, rock slide. I guess rock slide would be better. And you would be easily to cover him, and then it would just look almost natural, and he could literally just be under one of these right here, which is sad. And so there are ways that they could possibly see through this using, the latest technology. And it's not even the latest, it's just using the proper technology. But yeah, I'm going to get to chat here and I'll explain the other thing that they could do. But what you're looking at is most likely these tracks are coming from Dylan's Round's truck that Brenner's driving. This wash eventually dead ends, and we did go to the dead end, but and we searched and searched in this wash, but we couldn't see anything that looked out of place, although it definitely felt like there something there. I would agree with that, Tom. Probably the county's most high-profile case ever, and they're tanking it. I mean, this is. I mean, imagine when I first started covering it, this case blew up, and they just. I'm just speechless. There's just so many things that they did wrong, just carelessly, like let Brenner not checking his proper background, not doing their due diligence of they should have arrested him right away, because they would have, and he would have been able to hide that evidence because he threw a bunch of stuff away, which I'm sure some of that evidence could have led to some more clues that could have told him what may have happened or what he did with Dylan. But yeah, I can't tell you how many miles this wash goes on, but it goes on quite a bit. But this is the same wash. As a matter of fact, this shot right here is actually part of the shot you see. So when Heavy D is flying in with his helicopter, this area right here is what you see, which is actually wild. But yeah, eventually it goes to a dead end. And we did drive all the way up there with EchoSearch. Obviously, we went pretty slow, kind of both sides. There was 2, 3 team members, or 3 vehicles. We had a convoy. And we were just trying to keep an eye on each side, trying to see if there was any. We were really trying to see if the tracks would pull over. But yeah, if you take one more look at his footage, there's a spot I recognize. If I had more time, I could point it out, but there's a spot that I'm like, oh, yep, we flew over that spot. But anywho, so yeah, it's a good possibility that he is possibly in that area, somewhere in this wash. But the tough thing is And through time, as more time goes on, you're going to have more and more of these parts of these walls that are going to collapse. And if he's in one of these walls, if it keeps collapsing, it's just going to make it that much harder. But there are ways to use special drone cameras where you can attach certain filters. We know that that Dylan usually wore a flannel shirt. Where is it? Here we go. So he usually wore something like this. So we could use the black and red. Certain colors are going to help better than others, but I know when we were out there, we were searching for black, I believe, black and red, but I know black for sure. And using, I think, like thermal and some special filters on the drone, you can kind of peer through these walls, basically, where the dirt has come down, and kind of see if you can see through the dirt a little bit to see if there's any blacks that kind of pop through. And so that's something that I know that they've been working on. At least that's what they were doing since the last time I went out there, which is literally been a whole year. The last time I was out there was in October. Although it feels just like yesterday. Yeah, Aiden Clune's another one that we've been out there working for. And next year, we'll definitely try again for sure. Yeah, he had plenty of time to clean that truck. Yeah, we did a brief update. We're gonna do a show on Aiden. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week. I got to talk to his mother because there's some information that I know, and that's going to go with most of the cases that I've worked on or covered. When you work in true crime, you start to get contacts, and you'll learn information that unfortunately can't be shown or talked about until the time is appropriate, or But there are some information that I do know about this case, and as well as Aiden Clune's case, that I've got to talk to his mother, because they did release the footage when they found Aiden's truck, which is body cam footage, and there's some information that I know that I know the mother had wanted to share for a long time, and so I've got to ask her if we could talk about it. So yeah, I love Heavy D Sparks. I love Heavy D and the brothers. They do an amazing job, and they've worked on this case a couple of times, and yeah, it's amazing to have somebody that's got that kind of resources to go out and help. So Tom says, is there video on phone of what he was wearing? Oh, that Dylan was wearing? I'm assuming you're asking if what Dylan was wearing. I don't think so, but I could be wrong, because if they recovered one video, they could have, well, I guess, yeah, I'm not sure. But apparently he didn't really wear too many different items. I think he had like a couple of different types of flannel shirts, like you've got the white, gray, black, and then you kind of got the red flannel one. So, and then he always wore jeans. So most of his clothing is pretty predictable. It's just, what version of flannel was he wearing? But I think they believe it was black. Thank you so much, Tom, man. I really appreciate it. And if you guys could, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. It really helps this channel out. And I'm sorry I'm not 100% today, but feeling a little better than I was before. He has a black... Oh, yeah, he's got all sorts of toys. Yeah, he's got helicopters, just about everything, you name it. Because he does a lot of stuff. That's a great channel. No, I could tell you they have not found him. Dad, I could tell you just the way. Oh, so yeah, let's get into the latest updates. And yeah, let's get into those real quick. So, although there's not a lot, let's pull up here. So let me take a sip. So this was taken last month, and so he had a hearing set in October, I believe. I know True Crime Glorian, she's got, when it comes to the court stuff, she is on it. But anyway, so right now, so there's two things. So they were going to try to, when it comes to James Brenner, who is 59 years old, who right now is being charged with aggravated red rum, abuse or desecration of a human body, along with firearm charges. Not to mention he's got other charges from prior stuff, but in regards to Dylan Rounds, these are the charges. They were originally going for the penalty, the max penalty, you know. You guys know what I'm talking about, the chair, lethal injection type thing. But they ended up not going for it. And I feel terrible for the family that got turned down, that the prosecution doesn't feel, and I'm assuming it's because they haven't found Dylan Rounds, because to charge a man, for his life, that's a big burden on the jury. And without a body, even though this evidence on the phone, I think is going to be like as huge as like the Alex Murdaugh footage, or the same way as Alex Murdaugh, where the phone footage of, hearing his voice and stuff was like the nail in the coffin for him. This is going to be the same thing, but still they don't have the body, and technically, as far as I know, they don't have the gun either. So they don't have the full story, and then of course the body. So would they be able to, would a jury be comfortable enough to find a person guilty and sentence him to, some kind of lethal injection? So I could see why, although I don't agree, but it's terrible circumstances. So then he was supposed to have a hearing, I think, in October, and then that got postponed. And right now he is trying to get, I believe, a co-counsel to help defend him. And I think that's about where we're at. Let me see if there's anything else here. Okay, here we go. His next court appearance is scheduled for November 13th in Box Elder County. So, that would mean that's just 5 days away. Is this the latest one, True Crime Utah? The November 13th? I mean, that's just around the corner. Yeah, and that's the issue because obviously, if they're able to find the remains, it's possible that if obviously his body would still be intact, and then the bullet, if it was still in him, wherever he was buried, if they were able to recover his remains, there's a possibility they'd be able to find the slug or slugs that were used to shoot him, and then they would obviously then be able to work backwards and figure out the weapon used, and it'd be one step further. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a heavy burden. Without a body, that's a very heavy burden for the jury. Uh, the best example, and it's a terrible example, but uh, the uh, Casey Anthony case. I always want to say Kaylee Anthony. Poor little thing. But yeah, because technically, at the time, well, they did end up eventually having a body. They did get her remains. That's right. So I guess that's not the best example, but something to that along those lines. Because well, technically they couldn't prove how it happened, so that was their problem there. Is there was just no. They just didn't have a great evidence as far as how it happened, even though we all know who did it. Um, I didn't even realize he was charged. Oh yeah, I mean he was eventually charged. I can't remember the month, but yeah, they charged him, and then it was just a slow process. And then of course here, let's just take a look at. I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but Brenner in court. This is just
recordings
pathetic.
just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard.
So here's Brenner limping in, feeling bad. Oh, I'm a tired old man. I'm innocent. Feel bad for me. Limping around. Can't even talk. Speaks 2 words. It's like, oh, where am I? Oh, what a monster. What a piece of dirt. So yeah, and the parents did. They tried talking to him. I think they may have pulled part of the reward to, like I said earlier, I think I said this earlier, that they were going to try to incentivize him, make his life comfortable, even though that's going to be just absolutely horrible to think about. But, hey, we'll make your life comfortable in jail or wherever you're going to go by providing commissary and whatever. And in exchange, you tell us where you put down rounds. And he won't do it. He won't do it. So, so who knows? Maybe down the road, maybe he'll change his mind. I pray for his family. He does, because he's their best chance. Not to say that there's still not a chance that they can't find him by themselves, but it's just going to be that much harder because it's just so vast out there. But I think, for even though it's been a year since I've been out there, and it's been a long time since I've talked to the family, I do know that they had some game plans. And like I said, we've talked about this wash. This is one of their bigger areas that they believe he could be in, but it's just the massive skill of what they'd have to do to get all these drones and whatnot, and that's got the special lenses that they can use to kind of see through part of the dirt to kind of see if the black or whatever color they're focusing on will come through. But it's definitely plausible. Yes, so on her secrets, she does, that's her specialty. Um, we've actually used her, or she actually helped us in a prior case where we were searching the ground we used ERI, kind of the same thing as ground penetrating radar, but a different process, but kind of the same concept. The only issue is, yes, you could do it, but you would need, since it's so vast, if you could kind of get a hint as to where, let's see, if you could get some kind of hint as to where he may be at, you could kind of do some sections, but this is a vast area, and just doing, say, like a little backyard, it would take a day, maybe 2 days, depending on the size of the backyard. So just an average sized backyard could take a couple of days to do this kind of equipment. So you can only imagine when you're working with, gosh knows how many square miles this is. So it would be beneficial, but you would really need like a lead, something. So that thing earlier, like we talked about with the water, where if after it rained and then you went up there with the drones and kind of kept an eye out for the spots that were drying slower, that would give you some spots and you could mark those down, and then you could say, okay, these look, kind of suspicious. Let's check these out. So Queen, just try not to use all caps. YouTube doesn't like it, so we if you can, just refrain from using all caps, please. But no, what was the question? Oh, did he admit? No, he has not. The family tried to talk to him before, just after he was arrested. This is in regards to James Brenner. Family was talking to him for a little bit, and then once they started pressuring him, asking questions, he clammed up and said, nope, I want my lawyer. And so, but no, he has not officially, but keep in mind, there is footage on a cell phone, Dylan's cell phone, that shows him in his camper cleaning a gun, and he's got blood on him. And this is literally taking 30 minutes after Dylan showed up to that property. So there'd be no reason why Brenner should have Dylan's phone if he's supposedly still alive. There's only two people out there. This is a very rural area. This isn't like we're in the city or anything. So your pool of suspects is little to none. And so, but yeah, for him to have that phone, there's no reason for him to have Dylan Round's phone. But then when you've got this time-lapse video, which isn't very long, but it shows him cleaning his gun, and he's got blood on him, and it just happens to be the same day that Dylan goes missing and is last heard from 30 minutes earlier. It speaks for itself. And who knows what else is on that video? That's all that's been released to us publicly. So there may be other stuff as well. So anyway, if you guys have any theories or questions for me, I know it's been a long time since I covered this. I'd be happy to answer them. I don't have all the answers. I could just kind of tell you what it's like out there. I can tell you that a lot of things that came out in the beginning were, a lot of misinformation. But sadly, they believe this all came down to a stupid fence, and James freaked out because let me fast forward it. Further up. Yeah, there's a fence. All because of this stupid fence right here. And that Dylan probably just, probably broke the lock somehow because obviously it was going to rain, so he had to get to his grain chuck so the seed wouldn't get wet. And there was some little altercation, and that guy snapped, and that was it. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, we don't know. Next, we're still in preliminary phase right now. He's trying to get co-counsel, and what did we say? November 13th? Yeah, November 13th. Let me write that down. So we may go live again. Let's see. 13th. So that'd be Monday? I believe that's Monday. So if that's live, which I don't think it will be, but if there's any footage or anything, we may do another live. Bushi, good to see you. And this is a great question. So Dylan's truck had zero data to offer. Yeah, sadly, there was some gas. I wish, it's too bad they didn't know how much gas was in it before and then measured how much was in it when they found it, because then they could kind of get an idea of how far the truck was driven. But it's obviously this truck was driven for a certain amount of time because of the mud collected on the truck. Yeah. He was an oddball. Thank you, Cunningham. Chris, does Brenner have knowledge of the video he took on Dylan's phone? That's a good question. I'm not familiar with iPhones, so I don't know how. So the mother thinks when he might have probably took Dylan's phone out of his pocket and put it in his pocket, and then went to his trailer. And so let me pull up his trailer here. So his trailer would have been, I think, like right here. And it's kind of like a little trailer like this, just very small trailer, very small. But they believe when he went into his trailer, and they believe that he probably reached into his pocket, and while he's reaching into his pocket, activated the video. But it wasn't a video. It's it's time elapsed, where it's just taking a succession of photos back to back to back, time lapsed. So it's a video, but it's pictures. But so I don't know if that would have, because clearly the guy probably didn't have I don't know if he had a cell phone or not on himself. And I don't even think he could afford one, but I could be wrong. I don't think he had a cell phone, but I could be wrong. But anyway, yeah, so he would have activated that, but I don't know if he would have known it was activated. Clearly, I think if he had known that he did that, I would think he would have attempted to actually destroy it, but like breaking it. But I could be wrong. But we do know that he did still try to destroy it by throwing it in water. But fortunately, they got very lucky because we talked about that earlier. Because when they took that phone out of the water, when they recovered it, they didn't put it in a bag of water. And like I said, it usually starts to, I'm thinking the word, oxidizes the metal, the special components in it, oxidizes, that's the word. And it happens really fast, and that can completely destroy the, certain circuits. And I guess they got lucky and it didn't. Santa, look at, yeah. Yeah, it's, um, yeah, I don't think he knew. Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird that whole, but just, I mean, it's lucky though. At the end of the day, it's just lucky that he accidentally did that because that will be, because other than that, if they didn't have that footage, if you think about it, if they didn't have that footage, even though he's got other charges not related to Dylan Rounds, which is going to basically put him behind for life anyway, for the rest of, because he's 60 years old now. So, and that's the issue, is he's got prior charges. So, and this is why they think that he's really got no incentive to talk, because no matter what happens on this case, he's already got cases prior that are already going to send him to spend the rest of his time in prison, jail, whatever. So there's got to be something that they've got to be able to offer to him that's going to add some kind of comfort or whatever that's worth him giving up Dylan Rounds. We thought about that idea. They did. I spoke with the parents because I relayed that to them because that was something that me and Steve wanted to do. As a matter of fact, we wanted to go out there and drain the pond. We were actually going to try to get the resources to drain the pond. And I guess Justin Rounds got a team together and they ended up doing it by themselves. And so they drained it. I'm assuming they searched it and couldn't find anything. So he is not in the pond. But keep in mind, it is reason why I keep showing this is they are, say, 80-90% sure that Dylan Round's truck was in this wash, which means it wasn't Dylan driving. It would have been Brenner. And there's no other reason for him to be in this wash. It's almost impossible to get into. There's only kind of like a secret entrance. And, unless you're local, you may know about it. But other than that, I don't think anybody else knows how to get in there. And so that's the reason why I can't really show everything as far as Google Earth goes where this is at. Because they want to kind of keep this, secret. So, we gotta sneeze. But it wasn't a new truck. Yeah, it didn't have the GPS. The seat position was pulled all the way up. They believe that was done on purpose, even though he usually has it all the way back, I think. Or, yeah, I think he usually would have it all the way back. And so I think he tried to do that because he wanted to make it seem like a short person and throw people off. Thank you so much, Richardson family. Yeah, it's just that time of year. We'll get better. Yeah, no black box. Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't get data off the truck. Yeah. Yeah, Squirrel Mug merch. Oh, do you guys want to see one last behind the scenes? If you guys, let's see if I have it. I don't know if I can. But here, I just actually, I'll have to find it. You know what? I think I know the next member video I'm going to do for my Patreons. I'm going to work on that tomorrow. I know the perfect video, but I'll save that for you guys tomorrow. But just one more time, just really let it sink in. Not only once, but twice. Because this footage you're seeing here is the second week that we went out. So we went out on the 6th and then the 13th. Both times we went to this pond. And like I said, we were under the impression. Oh, come on. Why? Windows 11, man. It's got issues. But it's just crazy to think about that we were out there twice. And the thing that they found in that water was literally probably going to be the biggest damning evidence against Brenner. And that's Dylan's phone. And it's just gives me goosebumps thinking that we were standing right there. It just still, it's surreal thinking that that phone, I mean, it's literally, it's probably in this picture. We just can't see it because it's just so mossy. But it was literally found in this side of the pond. It's not a big pond. It's like the size of a local swimming pool. Or not a local swimming pool, like a private pool. So not big at all, but anyway, it's just kind of surreal to think about that was there. Is the video available? No, and I'm sure we'll not see that unless, until court, maybe. Rainy Days, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. You are so sweet. Thank you so much. That helps me out so much. Thank you. I think I missed Walkie Talkie. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I missed your chat earlier. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. And Rainy Days, you put your heart and soul into this case, Chris. I really have, and I really would love to help in some way to help bring closure. Because it's just a case that I've been out there more times than I can count, and I would love to be there when they find him. I'd love to help find him. Amy, thank you so much for the $1.99 heart. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. Feel better soon. Thank you so much, Bushit. And Tom, I'm sorry I missed that. North Carolina, I think. I'm sorry I missed that one. And Camilla, I'm so sorry. Some of these get by. What a sad story. This kid had so much life ahead of him. He did. And he's a kid that just was so smart. Thank you so much for the $20, Camilla. That is so sweet. And Katrina, gosh, I missed a lot in the middle here. Only support 2 channels, you and True Crime Web. Keep it up. You guys rock. Thank you so much, Katrina. I think we're all caught up here. So, I haven't talked to the family in a bit, but I'll probably reach out. You know, I know that they kind of wanted. The thing that was a bummer is, you know, I think most of you know have been following this case since the beginning. All the chaos, and I'm not going to mention names or anybody, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. Just, you know, all the crazy stories and rumors, and the parents were really just so tired of it, you know. And I think they're really kind of taking a step back from the social media platforms and stuff. And I don't blame them, you know. And anyway, and now I think they took the reward off, and that's just so I think they can use that money to hire people to help them find Dylan Rounds. And so that was kind of the last time I talked to him. That was kind of the plans for this year. But I did talk to Amy, which is Aiden Clune, and so maybe eventually I'll get in contact with them with Dylan Rounds as well. But yeah, next week we'll keep a look and see if there's any updates on that as far as court and yeah. Well, I started off a little rocky, but I got going. It's just you get hit with vertigo and you get dizzy, and it's like you can't think. It sucks. Anyway, it's just that time of season to get something. We'll get over it. But I really appreciate everybody. If you haven't, please hit that like button. Thank you to everybody being here, member or not, just taking the time out of your day to watch the channel. It means the world to me. And we'll be back live Friday. And then I found a video that I'm going to upload for my Patreon and my members. So another way to support the channel is becoming a Patreon or supporting me and becoming a member. And with that, I think we are going to do the outro, and we'll be back on Friday. And I also got some shorts that are coming out, some Delphi related, and I haven't done anything on Brian Koberger for a bit, so we'll kind of see what's going on there. And we may do a poll just to see what you guys want me to cover coming up. And yeah. So with that, get well, Chris. Thank you. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Jennifer, Karen, Copper Horse, D. I don't know if I saw Jocelyn in here, but they do such an amazing job. And thank you to the mods. And thank you to the well wishes. I will. We'll get better. And oh, YouTube shorts. No, it's getting too cold for shorts now. It's probably going to snow anytime soon. I can feel the weather changing. I can tell. We have a short fall here in Utah. I'm feeling it. So, all right, guys. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys Friday.